Hello. If you're watching this, you probably are watching the live stream after the fact because there's only one person watching who's been sitting in the lobby. I just want to thank you for stopping by. I really love hanging out with you guys, and if you missed the live stream live, then make sure to stick around. This is a long form version of my content where it's not edited, and I haven't been able to go back and script the entire interaction. So we get to really deep dive into just a topic that I want to go over and explore the different options. Hey, Ian Z, how you doing, man? So one thing that I wanted to share with you, if you are watching this live stream after the fact, or if you're just now starting to tune in, I launched. This is probably 2 weeks ago, before I got sick, and right before the coronavirus deal broke out. We launched the Brands and Empires Builders Club, which is a really exciting members-only club that's through Patreon. If you can hear that in the background, that's because I have a guest today. And anyways, it's a Patreon members-only support group, whatever, where all of our members are going to get access to things like laser toner supplies, heat presses, equipment, things like that, for way under what any of the dealers are doing. I got a little ticked off a couple weeks ago, and I went ahead and I set it up. So that's a new direction that we're moving into. If you're interested in that, I'm going to put the link in the description below after the fact. Or if you want to, jump into Discord and you can learn more about it. For pretty much for as little as $10. We've already had guys that have saved $75 and $100, and that's just going to be a service that I run because the majority of my money comes from screen printing, embroidery, and consulting. So that's just my little aside. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of the live stream. So today we're doing something a little different, actually. Instead of just a regular live stream, I wanted to talk to you guys about how we can find success while everybody else is panicking. And with me, I actually have one of our subscribers, Burns500. He's a moderator on the Discord. He's also a moderator on our YouTube channel. So right now, he is in the Discord with me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right. So if you are watching, you got to tell me if you can hear Burns' voice, because I'm playing it through the speakers and I'm counting on the mic to pick it up. You might be able to hear the kids in the background more than you can hear him. So say something again. Let's see.
I'm changing a diaper right this second. I got kind of crazy real quick.
No worries. He's quiet. Let me turn him up a little bit. All right, give it another go. I turned you up to about 84.
All right, can you hear me better now?
Is that better? Can everybody say? Bit quiet, hear him fine? All right. So hopefully that works out. So my first question is, how is your business doing right now? I know we've talked a little bit about it, but why don't you tell everybody kind of like how things are going for you?
We've hit kind of a little still with everything, just because a lot of businesses are kind of holding back and closed. And we live in Northern California, so we kind of got hit pretty hard with it. But we're trying to stay positive, reach out to, let them know that we're still here, and ways interact with the still.
Okay, that makes sense. You're breaking up a little bit, but essentially it sounds like you said that you're letting the community know. Are you doing that through Instagram, Facebook? How are you reaching out to everybody to let them know that you're still around?
We're using Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
We actually launched a shirt for our to show support for small business. And what we did was we reached out to a bunch of businesses saying, hey, listen, we're going to release these shirts for $15, and we would like to put your name on the back of the shirt, showing that you're part of the community, that you are a small business, and that you're kind of still open. And we're doing it as kind of an advertisement promotion.
So it's like a collaboration shirt. So you put like a support the community message on the front, and then you put all the sponsors on the back. You want to link that in Discord for us, or is that something you're able to do?
Yeah, I'll put it on Discord later this evening.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think I saw the front of that shirt, but I'd like to see how the back turned out. Did you get a lot of participation from that, or not really?
We put it up Sunday, and as of right now, we've got about 5 businesses. And then we're going to take it down we'll close it out Friday.
Okay.
And then we have a few more businesses that have kind of reached out wanting to do it. We just haven't figured out.
So
we're keeping it really simple.
Right on. How are you printing these?
Logos.
Are you doing this on screen printing?
We will probably do the fronts and the back with the eye, which is the white tone.
He's breaking up really bad, but he said he's going to do the fronts with screen printing and the backs he's going to use a white toner laser. I guess you could adjust the sponsors as you go with something like that. Yeah, right on. I actually just knocked out a job on my printer. This is the first production level job that I've run on my 800W. I've done samples and individual shirts and one-offs and things like that, and it's been fun. But up until now, I wasn't going to force the printer into a production environment that I had some other better option for. That was just kind of the way I approached it. I figured if there was a natural point in my business where I could introduce it in there and it could solve a problem, I'd use it. Otherwise, I was just going to continue running with embroidery and screen printing and things like that. I have a piece with me, so I did these. I don't know if you can see them. I put them on both Instagram, the Discord, I think the YouTube community page. So these are mask straps for the back of like scuba masks or whatever. And I guess Ramon's Divers Village is a client of my clients. I do wholesale printing, and I was able to knock these out. 250 of them. I was able to knock them out for 13 or 14 cents a piece. Now that has nothing to do with the amount of time I invested in these. Because I didn't know what I was doing, it took me all of a day to figure out the settings. The reason I ran, okay, so backstory, the reason I ran these on the transfer printer is because my automatic press is very difficult to adjust the off contact. It's very difficult to adjust the squeegee angle and the pressure. There's a lot of variables that I didn't want to screw up for my regular t-shirt production. The reason it's so difficult is because this is 2 layers of neoprene sewn together. You put a mask strap through that. So this is a very squishy material, very compressible. And when I put this on my automatic press, you run the risk of it shifting. You can roll this forward ever so slightly, and you end up with a double imprint when you're running it on the auto. And then you've got to worry about the cure temperature and colors bleeding. So I'd have to use an ELT ink, which is a lot thicker and more difficult to push through even a 110 screen. So I was really beating myself up about how I was going to get the detail. And let me see if I zoom in. I don't know if it's going to focus. No, it's focused on my face. There's a lot of detail in the words and in the like bamboo pieces around the words divers. And I didn't think I was going to be able to knock this out, even if I ran it, with adjusted settings on my automatic conveniently, because it could have taken a couple hours each way. So instead, I tried to do it on the transfer printer. And I tried standard paper, I tried Presto paper, and I tried Select. I'm trying to think if I tried a fourth paper. No, I tried standard, Presto, and Select. So what I found is I already knew from working with the transfer stuff that the standard paper is difficult to peel. You have to wait until it's cool. You have to sit there and peel it really tightly. So when you're peeling it off a garment, you have to like peel it like this. You got to get a real tight peel and come off of it. Well, the deal is with the heat press, when you pop that seal on the heat press, it jars, and the neoprene reinflates and everything, and it's just enough for that standard paper to pop up. I mean, for a fraction of a second, and for whatever reason, I could not get it to stick. I don't have my damaged piece around, but I could not get it to stick with the standard. So I messed up a piece that way. I tried the Presto, which is solid white coating on the top, followed by white toner, followed by an opaque backing. That didn't want to peel either. It left like a layer, a little bit more, but it was still messed up. Finally, I tweaked with some of the settings on Select paper. Now, Select is more stretchy. I knew from experience that it was more forgiving, and I wanted to give that a shot on the machine. So I had to use a temp gun to dial on my heat. I had to triple check my pressure settings. That was a huge thing because the pressure would read as, say, an 8. But in reality, the surface area of the little mask strap was far greater than that. So I had to put a bunch of mask straps onto the platen and adjust it so that it was at a true 8 pressure setting on the Hotronics. When I finally did all of that, and it took hours of ignorance and trial and error to get it working. When I finally did that, I got my first successful transfer and peel. From there, I adjusted the size of the individual transfers up to the point where it was about, 2.25 inches tall by 4 inches wide, and it was smooth sailing from there. I did have mistakes. I had to go back and fix things, but I only had 2 out of 250 pieces that were damaged beyond repair out of that entire order, and this is my first production level order. So time invested. I was able to turn let me see, I could do between 4 and 8 per 30-second press, and I was able to fit 10 imprints per sheet. So the whole production, even with one heat press, was not all that slow. I was pretty impressed. But that is completely irrelevant because that's not exactly what we were planning on talking about. I wanted to talk about how we could find success while everybody else is panicking. And I know that's a concern of yours. Burns, you're still in here with me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate you letting me monologue like that. This guy's a trooper, right?
No, no worries.
So I think that's something that a lot of the people who are going to see this video, and the 7 of us who are in here, also there's 7 people in here watching the video. We've got 1 upvote. So let me take a second to ask for a shameless plug. Just give me an upvote on the video. If you guys are here and not subscribers, which is highly unlikely, go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well if you don't mind. But anyways, so finding success while others are panicking, I think is huge, because most of the people who I'm dealing with in the channel, there's some, but most of them have not been through a recession. They haven't been through a difficult economic contraction period. But I built my screen printing business in the middle, or not in the middle, at the tail end of the housing crisis. The majority of my customers, this is right before the bottom fell out of the market, were in Tampa. And I did brand image consulting, which is, glorified way of saying that I was a website designer and a logo designer, and I consulted with very small businesses, under 15 employees. I didn't have a huge book of business, but I noticed that as a lot of the people in Tampa at the time were tied up in real estate for one reason or another. And when the housing market kind of hit rock bottom, a lot of those people who had their money tied up in that just lost all marketing budgets, lost all of the extra money that they were pumping into their brick and mortars from that side. So almost overnight, my business dried up, and I went from having several different clients to nothing, and I had to reinvent myself very quickly. I tried several different things. I tried insurance. I tried, I did a lot, and what I ended up landing on was I got a call from a buddy of mine who was in real estate selling courses and ways to invest in short sales. He was one of the early adopters of that, and he wanted to launch a screen printing business, and we went into business together. One thing led to another. I got my first storefront, and then that led to a second storefront and a partnership, which led to where we're at now, which is online wholesale and retail printing with the YouTube channel. And that's just been the last 8 years. But the first 2 or 3 years of our business, we were growing in a time when there was a lot of competition, a lot of supply, and relatively low demand. And I believe that there is the potential, not necessarily the guarantee, but there's the potential that we're getting ready to hit another economic recession. I mean, if you looked at the stock market, if you got a lot of money in stocks right now, I don't suggest that you look at the stock market very closely, but we're back to like 2017 levels and quickly dropping. The S&P 500 was approaching 2016 highs, and it's tough. It's scary. A lot of people who might have been considering retirement are now hunkering back down into their full-time jobs if they have that. And a lot of people who had jobs last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago are now facing maybe being furloughed, maybe being laid off. We've got several friends who had high-paying jobs that overnight they're looking at losing a couple $100,000 a year in income, and it's scary. It's scary for somebody who is not a career entrepreneur, who hasn't seen the ups and downs, to be facing a complete lack of job security. We all talk about no job security, and if you've been in business for yourself for any period of time, you know that from one job to the next, there's really no guarantees. And that's what we're entering, is a period where there are no guarantees, where the competition is going to be stiff. And what you'll see, and this is how it will go if the economy continues its downward slide, there's going to be a lot of supply. There's going to be a lot of people who are in the printing business. They've got a lot of employees. They've had a good amount of market share, and that is going to slip. And it's going to be tough. If it hits the way I'm thinking it's going to hit, it's going to be tough for a period of time. But while everybody's panicking, and while it's tough, and while the economy is at its worst, that is when people who have great ideas are going to have the most chance of really gaining traction and finding success. So today I kind of wanted to offer a little bit of hope. to anybody who's watching this, this is the most unique opportunity in the vast majority of y'all's lives. If you are interested in getting involved in the printing business, you have to step back though, because you need to ask yourself before this hit. Let's go back to January, before things got crazy, and everything was hopeful, and you were looking at a second income, or you were looking at making this your primary income, or you're looking to scale your existing operation. Did you want to do all of these things because you like the idea of being an entrepreneur? Did you want to do all of this because you were in love with the concept of the fast lifestyle, making a lot of money, being successful? You have an idea in your mind of what it looks like to be an entrepreneur, and you wanted to capture that? Or did you have an idea or a burning passion for something that you wanted to bring to the world, and being an entrepreneur was just a conduit to make that happen? Because that's a huge differentiating factor. If you have a passion to do something and you're willing to do whatever it takes, because 10 years ago being an entrepreneur was risky. Now it's in vogue and it's cool to be an entrepreneur, or at least it was until about 2 weeks ago. And now, yeah, it's back to being scary. And I know you jumped into this. I'm going to bring you back into the conversation because I'm being rude, but
No, you're fine.
How long have you had your business?
So we started 2 years ago.
Okay.
Doing just, and then we did our
Hold on.
town.
Go back. It said you started 2 years ago doing, and you went dead silent.
Oh, sorry. So 2 years ago we started doing decals with heat transfer. So heat transfer.
Okay, so you started a couple years ago doing heat transfer vinyl. When did you add the next steps?
About a year ago, we added screen, and then didn't really take off. So I kind of packed everything up, and I was like, all right, I'll just wait.
Okay.
And then we picked it back up about 6 months ago, screen, and I got more into it, advertising more on it, kind of reaching out more.
Okay.
Learned a little bit more, things like that. And then we picked up the i550 in October.
So you got
so,
into screen printing, to try to recap what I'm hearing, because it is a little broken. 2 years ago, you got into decals. A year ago, you got into screen printing, and it didn't take off like you thought it would. So you let that part of the business slide until about 6 months ago, which is probably when you joined the channel. And then in October, you picked up the laser toner printer. So you've only had laser toner and screen printing really as a pillar of your business for the past 6 months. Now, how much of your business right now, how much of your income, what percentage would you say is coming from screen printing and the print shop as opposed to day jobs and mainline income?
Well, my main job.
You went dead. Your main job, what?
My main job, we got laid off.
You got laid off a week ago. So you're in a position now, and I might have read that, but I didn't know this for sure. So you're in a position now where by external factors, you're going 100% into the print business as your main income.
Yes.
That's an incredible place to be. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And luckily, when this happened, I now have time to do more. I have time to test and play with my i550 more during the day than I didn't have it before. So it's a good thing and a bad thing, because being laid off, you're laid off.
Right.
But the positive is I get more time to
switch over to push. If you don't mind, switch over to push to talk. That way, whenever you're talking, the mic's going to stay activated, because I think that's a lot to do with it. It sounds like your connection's strong, but it's just losing your voice. We'll try that again. And then just let me know when you're ready for that. So that was, because I want to circle back around to that. That's big. Talking about last week, losing your main income, zero job security, clearly, and now being thrust full force into having to do your full-time income from the print shop. And I mean, for us, at least we have a history of running, our business. So if we lose 20%, 30% of our business, it won't necessarily kill us. And I think when I looked back at 2009, there was a report that I read, changing gears. I looked at a report from 2009, and this is when businesses were getting hit really hard. They said, what are the 5 reasons why your business is failing? The number one reason across the board was a lack of sales. So when we're talking about an entrepreneur who is jumping in and they don't have a strong reason why, that's what I was talking about a minute ago. You're in love with the idea of being an entrepreneur, but you don't have a strong and compelling reason why anybody would want to do business with you, as opposed to the 1,000 other screen printers, embroiderers, DTGers, whatever it is. Why should they do any business with you at all, as opposed to anybody else? Well, in a booming economy with a ton of demand and not enough supply, you don't have to have a strong reason. You just have to be there and pick up the business. In a down economy, you have to be compelling. You have to have some differentiating factor to bring to the table that's going to get other people involved in your business, your brand. They have to buy into you, and I think that's really critical in determining who succeeds and who fails. When sales are down, you're going to have to stand out from the available options to be picked. And what I found interesting was the majority of businesses only lost about 15% of their revenue. 15% of revenue was enough to cause the shuttering of a ton of businesses. It's enough to close a contract printer. If you're looking at these, you hear about these screen printers that are turning millions of dollars in business. If they're a contract printer, they're running automatics, they have to hit a very high efficiency percentage to stay in business. Sometimes the ones that are really hurting, I mean, they could be running thousands of shirts a day on multiple machines, and they might only be running 7% to 10% profit margins. They might not make money until the 24th or 25th day out of 30 days every month, or whatever the work schedule looks like. They might not be hitting profit until the last couple of days of the week or last couple of days of the month, and that's huge. If they have a dip of 15%, then they're out of business. They're laying people off. They're making major cutbacks. And what happens is when one multi-million-dollar print shop goes under, all of those brokers have to go somewhere else. And if immediately the supply drops, the demand raises, and you have brokers that have been in business for years doing business with 2 or 3 contract printers that are now searching for secondary and tertiary print options. On the fly, they're willing to pay more because they have to. There's ripples that go through the market as the weakest businesses fail their way up to the strongest businesses, which creates that unique opportunity. All right, so do you have push to talk on now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Much better. At least from what I can tell, you're not cutting out at all.
So one of the things that I think sets us apart, kind of makes us stand out a little bit, is we are a veteran-owned and operated company. Me and my wife both are veterans, and people love that. And we've had a lot of people who've reached out to us because of that.
Got to push to talk again.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what's up.
And so that's what's helping us right now, is that that's what's helping us stand out, is that we're veterans. And when a lot of these, like you were saying, there's a lot of screen printers out there, there's a lot of people who do this, and you have to be able to stand out, even if just a little bit. And so with us having our military background is what's helping us stand out kind of amongst the crowd.
And I feel like you had a pretty interesting story to tell, just beyond having a background in the armed forces. But I mean, even if you don't tell that story, just the fact that people are willing to do business with you because of that's huge. I hope we have to sit down. We'll have to sit down after the fact, and we'll work up a plan just between the two of us to see if we can get you out there and prospecting and reaching beyond just your city, because I think that there's a wider reach. I know for a fact, as far as like government contracts and things like that go, you have to be registered a couple different ways. But for instance, if your wife is a part of the business, if you were to set yourself up as an LLC or an S corp, and I'm not an accountant, and I'm not a lawyer, none of that stuff, but if you were to set her up as a 51% owner of the business, and she's a veteran, now you have a veteran-owned, female-owned business, and you're checking 2 boxes. And in normal day-to-day business, it matters to a certain subset of people who are willing to do business with you. But from a government contract standpoint, to be a veteran-owned, female-owned business, that could be the difference between winning a bid at 10-15% higher and not. And that, depending on what's available right now, and I have no idea what's out for bid on BidSync or Fed BizOps or anything like that, that could be huge just in your business specifically for turning income replacement amounts of money. So we'll have to dig into that a little bit. But
And
Interesting.
on top of that, my wife is considered disabled, so
Ooh.
that's another check in that box. Yeah, and we've looked at that before, but there's a lot of paperwork to look through. So yeah, I would love to have a conversation with you more in depth at some point on the whole government side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never gone down the path of registering as a minority. You know, I've got a fractional amount of Japanese, but I know that if somebody has to dedicate a certain percentage of their yearly budget to various buckets, and if you can qualify as two buckets, man, they're ecstatic over that. So yeah, we'll definitely dig back into that. So do you have a game plan then for the next 2 or 3 months? I mean, what have you thought in terms of prospecting? What have you thought in terms of income replacement up till now?
So we have our own line of T-shirts. We do. It's a like a Pledge Allegiance flag shirt that people order from us, and we have an order that's getting ready to go out. I've got to actually screen print tomorrow for 20 shirts. I have a hospital that's got an anniversary coming up that I'm working with them, and that's going to be 100 shirts. And so we're still reaching out to people, and we're still getting business in. But I'm now looking to reach out more in the community as this is going on. But it's just kind of slowed down for everybody because a lot of people are closing their doors. A lot of people are scared right now. They don't know what to do.
I see a lot of fear. Definitely, there's a lot of fear out there, and uncertainty just in general. You know, people don't know how widespread this is going to go, and you're seeing, you know, anybody who's in the service industry, the restaurant may stay open and you'll have the cooking staff in the back, but all of the wait staff completely cut. There's no reason to keep them on, as if they were making more than $4 an hour from the company anyways. They were completely relying on tips. But you have all of those people. We have yet to see the ripples that are going to come from that. You know, somebody who is a waiter is now losing their income, which causes hardship for them to be able to pay their bills, which causes it to trickle up to the landlords who are, you know what I mean? It's the entire system is just teetering because we're all shut down and locked up and in our houses, you know, and nobody is able to go out and produce like they normally would. And I know people are eager to get back to a sense of normalcy, but you know, I heard on the news today they were talking about balancing the cost of the cure, you know, in quarantine with the economic fallout that could happen as a result of shutting everything down. And then when they started throwing around the idea of herd immunity, essentially what that means is allow 30-40% of the population to get it, and the natural immunity is built up is going to prevent the spread. And it's just that's a dangerous, to me, that's a dangerous concept without getting political, because you're essentially putting the pressure on the American people. You're letting them feel the pain of the economic crisis enough that they're willing to accept the sacrificing of the older generation of people who are more susceptible. And I think that's kind of a dangerous place to be. But that is not relevant to building a successful business in the panic. What did come to mind though was a brand consultation that I had the other day, just talking about being differentiated. And it's interesting that you've got the veteran background, because that, I think that's going to be critical in building a successful business moving forward. You have to have something, and I know there's more to that story, because there are hundreds of thousands of veterans. Many of them are disabled, and I don't think they have as interesting a story to tell as you do. And putting that into words in a compelling way, I know a lot of people don't like talking about themselves, but I think talking more to your experience in your past and your history and turning that into a compelling brand is going to feel more authentic than just slapping veteran-owned business on the front door. So that's part of digging into how we really identify what makes you guys unique and capitalizing on that. But for people who are viewing this live stream, there's 9 of us in here now, and there's going to be a few hundred more to follow. Trying to find a differentiating factor in your business doesn't necessarily mean looking back to your life experience and looking back to the things that you've done. Not everybody has the honor of that kind of background. Some of you are going to have to rely on a unique idea. You're going to have to see a need in the market, and you're going to have to dig into a solution. And once you've got what you think is a solution, and you believe that it's compelling enough that people are going to want to do business with you, you have to hold on to that, and that's what you have to run with. And it has to be enough of a burning desire that you're willing to risk a lot to get there. And here's how it works. I watched this video about surfing the other day, and it was really interesting because if you replace all of the surf terminology with business terminology, it's very accurate. Catching a wave when you're surfing, you have to put the work in to get far enough out that you're able to be near where the wave is cresting. So you have to be there near the opportunity in the right place at the right time. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You know, if you're on land, you're not catching a wave. So you got to paddle out there and do the work to get there. Put yourself in that environment where you can find success. And then you have to position yourself at the proper angle so that when the wave begins to peak, you're there to catch that forward momentum. And then you have to be quick on your feet and juggle all of the changing environments and pivot with all of the in the moment changes that are going to happen in order to find success. A lot of people are going to fall. A lot of people are going to come up short. A lot of people are going to miss the wave. If you're trying to time the stock market or if you're trying to time getting into business for yourself, it's not going to happen. By the time all the indicators are there that you've got a winning idea or that you shoulda, woulda, coulda, I guarantee you it's too late. You know, if you're just now thinking about drop shipping or Amazon FBA or any of these other things that people have been really hyping for a long time, let me tell you, you're late to the party. That ride is at maximum capacity. The next thing is what's going to catch, and by the time a lot of people see it, it's too late. So my thinking is the apparel industry has been saturated for 8 years now, 10 years. I can't tell you how many years it is, but I know that we went from 3 printers in the Brandon area whenever I was out there to like 12. There's a boat. Everybody and their stinking grandma is a printer nowadays. The fact is, the vast majority of them are going to shutter. If the economy continues to weaken, the vast majority of them are going to shutter from weakest to strongest. And if you decide to jump into...
interject with a question?
Yeah, man, go for it.
So what I was thinking is, I think the people who own their equipment right now and who aren't leasing or financing are in a better position, say 6 months from now, than the people who are making, you know, $1,000 monthly payments on a DTG machine or, you know, a piece of equipment that they're not running at all.
Yep.
And I think they're going to be hurt.
That goes for any equipment too. You know, DTG or laser toner, it doesn't matter what it is. If you go out and you lease these things at a 20 or 30% interest rate, man, you can get super screwed on something like that.
Oh yeah, they when I looked at going into DTG, because I looked into it hard before I came into white toner, and you know, a $20,000 machine, the guy was like, oh yeah, you know, 20,000, you can make that back in 6 months, but your monthly payments, and by the time I paid that off, I would have owned 2.5 of those machines. By the time I would have made full payments on it and been cleared and done. It's crazy.
It's frustrating too, because I was talking to someone the other day who they jumped into not a DTG, they jumped into a white toner laser. I mean, but it was a lease through a company that I'm already somewhat frustrated with. And you know what? They told the salesman, this is what I mean, this is so between Saturday when we launched the Brands and Empires Builders Club, the Patreon members only club where you can get the supplies and everything. I talked about it at the very beginning of the video. Between Saturday and Sunday night, I got a comment on one of the videos where the guy said, hey, look, man, I have a white toner laser printer. I love it, but I went to Company X. I'm not going to bash them in my live stream. I went to Company X. I told them that I wanted to pay this machine off in 4 months. I wanted to buy this machine in 4 months, but I was going to lease it till I pulled some other finances together. They said that was okay. And, you know, that I could pay it off in 4 months, no problem, blah, blah, blah. He said, I saw the clause where they wanted me to, like, you know, pay over the course of the full lease term or whatever, but I made a point of telling them that I wanted to pay it off and I wanted the contract amended. They shook their head yes. They told me everything was going to be okay. They got me to sign on the dotted line. And then 4 months later, when I went back to pay off my printer, guess what? They told me that I was going to have to pay the entire term of the lease, and it was something like a 36-month lease, and it was going to be over 2 times what he paid, because to pay it off, he would have to pay the full term of the lease. And the lease at 30-something% interest for 35% interest, I don't know what it was crazy. But over the course of 36 months was going to essentially be 2 and a fraction the cost of the printer for whatever his interest rate was. And if you wanted to pay that off right at the beginning, day one, pay it off, now he's on the hook for over 2 times the cost of the printer. He was livid. And it was in the fine print that they never amended, and it was the gotcha. And he calls him back, and they said, well, I don't remember any of that. And it was, I mean, It's frustrating because I know this. I know the company, and I know people do that. And these leasing terms, they are so dangerous. High interest financing. It's the closest thing to loan sharks we can get in the modern day. It's worse than putting it on a credit card. And I think if you're looking at any kind of equipment and you're going to have to finance it, unless you can go to the bank or the credit union and get a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% at most 10% interest loan through a traditional financer, you have no business going into these guaranteed credit line type lease deals. It's just not worth it. If you think the difference between succeeding and failing is the piece of equipment, I'll tell you right now that's a delusion. Right now, even 4 weeks ago, getting a piece of equipment via a lease is probably not the way forward for 95% of people. It just isn't. You can make it without buying one of these high interest pieces of equipment. And then when you pay cash for it, or you get a better terms on the financing for it, you're going to be in a much better position. Because, like Burns is saying, what happens if your entire business shuts down unexpectedly from a worldwide pandemic that you didn't see coming? That would have been cuckoo bird 3 months ago. If you look at like the Reddit prepper forums and things like that, these were the wingnuts 3, 4, 5 months ago that were predicting doom and gloom. Well, here it is. And if you signed your life away on a high interest loan, your credit could be just smashed 6 months, 12 months from now. So good point. I know I killed that topic with a rock.
No, I know, and I'm glad that we had the savings, and me and my wife had a discussion. We could finance the I-550, or we can just use our savings and buy it flat out. And I'm so glad that we bought it just flat out, because it might take a lot of to make the money back,
right?
But we'll make that money back. It's just a matter of time.
Right, absolutely. And I've had revolving credit, and I'll tell you, just getting stuck in 23, 4, 5, 6% interest, being a slave to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year in interest. We got slammed with a huge back tax bill, and a huge revolving credit debt whenever my business partner left the business. It was like $20,000 in money owed to the t-shirt distributors, with a ton of back sales tax. And the dude just like left town on drugs, man. And it was well, I'm gonna get demonetized for saying that word. I'll have to counter apply for what is it, remediation or something? Can't say the D word. But anyways, yeah. So we got smashed with that, and man, it took a long time to recover from that situation. And that was something that was thrust on us. I can't imagine voluntarily going into debt with high interest leasing terms on a hope and a prayer that I could make it. Forget that. Not a chance.
Yeah, they offered us 48% on our DTG.
Are you 48%?
I was like, you're crazy. Like, this can't be real.
But if you only sell 5 million shirts at $25 a piece, you'll pay it off in 2 weeks.
The guy was 100%. Like, he was like, "Oh, you'll make this back in 6 months." I was like, "You can't guarantee that." He's like, "No, you can. Have you seen these?" I was like, "I've seen them."
Theoretically, yeah. If you printed 24 hours a day,
$50,000.
Oh, that's nutso, man. Here's what got me. I've been digging a little bit into the DTGs, and they're great. They're great printers if you have the volume for it. But I got an email from Company X, and they were talking about, if you in this time of need and blah blah blah, we're discounting our cleaning supplies and our storage supplies. Like, you flushed ink lines, and you put your DTG into cold storage, and cross your fingers that your print heads don't dry out when it's down, because that's like $1,000 to replace. And it made me kind of smile from my perspective, because now with the equipment that we have, if we closed up tomorrow for 3 months, the embroidery machines, they don't require anything. When they're down, it's like they're just in stasis. There's nothing that's going to go bad on them. They're in a climate controlled environment. The needles, the metal parts, they're not going to rust. Nothing's going to happen. I can turn them back on, and they work like that whenever I'm ready for them. The automatic printing press, I throw a little bit of lithium grease on some of the moving parts, run a dehumidifier every now and again. It's good to go for years. Same thing with the white toner laser. I turn it off. There is nothing that's going to go stale, dry out. It can sit, and then when I'm ready for it, it's ready for me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about it at all. And, the Brother GTX, I found out the inks last 1 to 3 months. I had no idea. I thought inks were inks. You know, I'm used to the bottled inks. And then at high volume times, a lot of the distributors run out because they don't want to deep stock items that are only good for a 3-month shelf life. So the big companies get priority access to them, and you could be left in November with no access to inks. You know, and there's a slew of other problems that come with some of them. So you really have to be in a high volume printing operation with sustained business to keep your machines running, because when they say they love to run, it means they have to run, because if they fall under a minimum capacity of whatever, you could be up a creek without a paddle. And that was, for me, that was one of the big selling features. And then it was, what's the print quality look like? Because I'm producing screen printed shirts. If I deliver 50 screen printed shirts and 5 laser transfer shirts, and these wash out, tear, rip, snag, whatever they do in a week, that's going to look really bad on me. In fact, I'm wearing a transfer. This is a plastisol transfer from FM Expressions, but I have a polo that I transferred onto, and these are supposed to be 100% cotton, 50/50, and 100% polyester transfers. I transferred this onto like a $40 Nike sphere dry polo, and I'm telling you what, that sucker is half ripped off, and now I've got a relatively expensive blank that I put a transfer onto. Don't ask me why I didn't embroider it, because I was in a rush, and now I've got to sit there and blow it out with acetone or something and hope the shirt doesn't end up jacked up, because and my thought is, how many transferred shirts have I delivered? In fact, you know what? I'll tell you, I had plastisol, and because people talk, the reason I'm saying this is because people talk about the quality of plastisol transfers being 100 washes. They're not. I don't know about Supacolor, which I do have. I just got a bunch of Supacolor transfers from Stan Banks. He got in touch with me over Instagram, and we talked back and forth and everything like that. And he wanted me to try out Supacolor transfers. Now let me see. I've got some right here. Let me grab real quick. So I think they want me to review these on video, but I haven't even transferred any of them yet. They sent me like 50 of these, the Brands and Empires logo, and we'll talk about this real quick. So this is the Brands and Empires logo, and you won't be able to see it, but I'm telling you, it's the same adhesive crystals that regular plastisol transfers have. Now the print quality looks great, and I think they're advertising a really great color matching system. So I don't know how their printing setup is with Supacolor, but apparently their color matching system has the ability to produce, like, I don't know, some millions of colors and all these Pantone combinations. I don't know if it's a mix of CMYK with spot colors for like cobalt and pink and neons and fluorescence. I have no idea. I have no idea what their proprietary system is, and I've never pushed the limits of it. But I know with FM Expressions that my experience has been, we lost a customer that was worth $14,000 a year. I just connected the dots pretty recently, because we would use FM Expressions transfers to do it was a 3-color job, left chest over a pocketed safety colored shirt. Now this customer would put 2 orders a year in. Every 6 months they would put $7-something thousand worth of t-shirt and like Gildan, like the $5 Gildan polos and long sleeve safety shirts and pocketed, unpocketed, all that. $7,000 to $7,500 per order twice a year. And oh yeah, if you're here, 13 of you guys, make sure you smash the like button. If you're here, subscribe to the channel, because the scripted videos are definitely a lot more concise. We'd love to see you guys around, so make sure you do both of those things real quick. But anyways, so FM Expressions doing these transfers, $15,000 a year. I was able to fit on the big transfer. This is like a 12 by 16 or whatever. On the big transfers, I was able to fit 40 or 50 left chests because of the way they were laid out. So I cut them all up. We transferred them on. In an 8-hour day, we were turning $7,500 with a cost of like $2,800, $2,900 cost of goods. Only to find out now, 2.5 years later, that the reason they left is because these shirts were washing out after like 20 washes. And I had no idea. Somebody mentioned something briefly. The person we lost it to started screen printing them. And the reason I didn't screen print them is because it was fine detail, and it was above a pocket. We didn't have a pocket platen back in 2013 when we started doing it that way. And then we had like 15,000 transfers. So we continued using them for a long time. We had like, transfers that lasted 3 years in a climate controlled environment. Anyways, we find out that they finally left us because these transfers were washing out after 20 washes. They still had their safety color on the shirts. You know, they were still viable from an ANSI standpoint. So very frustrating to find out there. And that was FM Expressions. Not to bash them, but that when I see a transfer like this, and this is Supacolor, I haven't even tried one yet, but when I see one like that and I see the adhesion crystals, that's essentially hot glue, and then they have, you know, an opacitant layer, which is probably just a layer of white plastisol, and then the top layer is a very thin process color. I wonder how many washes you're really going to get out of that, because in the real world, you hand these off to construction workers, half of them don't speak English. Who is going to hand 12 shirts to their guys? All right, guys, wash these on cold, delicate, with completely free and clear detergents, no fabric softener. Make sure to tumble them dry with absolutely no heat whatsoever. And you know what I mean? Or hang. Nobody's going to do that. So if you're trying to get these things to last 40 or 50 washes, that's dangerous territory to stake your reputation on. I don't know.
I thought everybody did that.
What do you mean?
I thought everybody did the inside out, cold water only, let it air drop.
Yeah, right. Like, you know, just hold it up to a fluorescent light for 12 hours while it air dries. You know,
I have a bad habit. I'll throw all the laundry in, shirts, jeans, whatever fits, put it on, you know, the whatever setting the wife has it on, and just press start. I don't look at it. You know, that's just the way it is.
Oh man, I'm the same way. I'll put my white towels in with my red cotton t-shirts, and just whatever happens on the inside of that washer is out of my hands, you know, on heavy duty.
Exactly.
I mean, but at the same time, you know, talking about 50 or 100 washes, my American Apparel, Bella Canvas, and what's the other one? Next Level. Out of all of those, they don't stay bright and fresh for 50 washes. You know, whoever's talking about running these shirts for 50 washes, after about the 5th wash, I start noticing the vibrancy of my shirts decreasing noticeably. And my wife uses free and clear, apparently on cold, low heat, all these different things. She doesn't go all the way, you know, tumble dry or air dry on a line, nothing like that. But the majority of my shirts aren't super fresh after 5 washes. I mean, just if I look at them, and in my closet, because we do screen printing, I have a lot of shirts at from various companies. I just grab a new one out of the mix, you know, whenever I want one. A brand new shirt, you know, it's super smooth, it's slick. This is probably 3 or 4 washes in, the shirt that I'm wearing right now. There's not a lot of lint buildup. There's still, the black is still deep and rich and vibrant. The shirt hasn't, you know, shrunk up so that my 2XL shirt is a midriff. We're not at that point yet. But give it 4, 5, 6 washes, it's not going to look super fresh. So when these people are talking about, you know, 40, 50 washes, unless you're a tradesman that has to wear their same shirt, you know, 2 days out of the week, or 20 times in a 6-month period in order to get, you know, the next set of shirts, for the majority of people, that's not going to matter. So I guess it is kind of like a toss-up. If you're sending retail shirts out, maybe transfers are viable. When I'm talking about Plastisol order-on-demand transfers, maybe they're not. You know, DTG suffers from the same fate. What were you going to say, Burns?
No, what I was going to say, so what I tell my clients is, you know, 50 washes, 100 washes, depending on, you know, you might get somewhere in between. If you wear that shirt 1 time a week, realistically, you might wear it twice a week or whatever. That's still, I mean, you're looking at a year's worth of that shirt for 15, still pretty good.
And I think in reality, I don't know how many shirts most people have in their closet, but does the Supacolor transfer look like it might be printed digitally or by DTG? And you know what, guys? I apologize. I know I should be looking at the chat in YouTube, but I strongly urge all of y'all to join the Discord channel if you're sitting in front of a computer. Maybe somebody from the Discord can post the link in the YouTube box right there so that everybody knows how to join the Discord channel. We have some on-fire conversations any time of day or night, so that's something that I encourage you to do if you haven't already.
I want to interject with Discord real quick.
Sure.
With Discord, I mean, there's guys in there that make stickers. There's screen printing guys. There's guys like me that run an i550 and screen printing. There's people jumping in with questions all the time. I mean, there's always something. There's a topic for everybody. You know, there's always something to talk.
And you know, I'll say this too. On that same line, we have 2 moderators online. Myself, so there's 3. We've got a Gold Club supporter who's at the $20 level on Patreon, so that's 4. We got a Silver Club member, 5. and then 5 innovators, which is people from the first like 1,000 or 1,500 subscribers that jumped into Discord, and then we have 14 early adopters. So what's that? 19, 20, 21, 22, 24 people online, 148 people offline. So we've got over 170 people in the Discord channel, 24 online right now, and the conversations are going. People are sharing interesting things they found from Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, wherever. They're asking questions that are getting resolutions. It turns into a much more reactive community, because on YouTube what I've noticed is somebody posts a comment, somebody replies to a comment, but that's where it stops. You barely ever get more than 1 or 2 layers deep. There's just not that level of connection and interactivity when it comes to YouTube. And sometimes the replies are spread out over weeks or months. And on Discord, though, it's very up to the minute. We're able to hang out, we're able to ask questions, bounce ideas, and develop deeper friendships and relationships and partnerships with each other that's just not possible even on a live stream environment. So I think that's a really big resource for everybody. If you so choose to use it, we would love to have you. And that if you are an existing YouTuber and you happen to be watching, I will tag you with a YouTube tag as well. Rybeats is in there. There's a couple others. Josh Stover from Stover Customs, he's in there. He's a YouTuber, so it's a big old party. But I put the word out. If anybody watching, there's 12 of you watching right now. If anybody in the live stream or anybody in the Discord wants to jump in with us, we can turn this conversation into a group conversation. I'm more than willing to do that. Somebody's gonna have to post the link though for the Discord channel in the chat. Otherwise, you'll have to go to another video real quick and click the link. But the only other thing that I was going to share in the live stream tonight was not an anecdotal story. It was from a consultation that I had not too long ago, but it was with a company that had hit mid single-digit millions in revenue. I'm not going to be super specific, just because of how recent the consultation was. But anyways, they had hit mid single-digit millions in revenue. They had just received a second round of funding, and they were trying to hit at least $10 million in revenue in the next fiscal year. So this is a company that had a pretty significant level of success.
Hey, I don't mind to cut you off real quick.
Sure.
I'm gonna have to go. I gotta help my wife put the kids down. It's been a pleasure being on here tonight and talking with you. If you don't mind, I'd love to give a shameless plug to my Instagram account.
100%.
We are RL Creative Designs. We're based out of Woodland, California. We are a veteran-owned and operated company. We do screen printing, and we do car decals, and we do full-color heat transfers. If you ever need anything, reach out to us on Instagram. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions or guide you in the right direction. Make sure you jump on Discord. You can reach any of us on Discord. We'll talk to y'all soon.
And you ship nationwide, right?
I'll talk to you later. Do what?
You ship nationwide, right?
Yes, we just shipped out to Georgia. We ship wherever within the states, international, and we can talk about it.
Sounds good to me. All right. Well, have a good night, man. I appreciate you jumping on. It's been an hour, something like that. You've been a trooper. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. My wife's trying to get the kids to bed, and I think she's getting a little upset. So it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate taking the time.
All right, man. Take care. Good seeing you.
All right, bye.
All right. Well, everybody, that was Burns 500. He's moderator on the channel. He's super active in the Discord. I think he's one of the top 4 most active people in the Discord, answering questions, helping people out, just generally participating. It's pretty incredible. So what was I saying? Oh, talking about the company that I met with. And this is how innovation can really make or break a business. And this goes for anybody who's looking to become an entrepreneur or who already has a business. Oh, question, does the Supacolor look like it might be printed digitally by DTG? I think I responded to that, ENZ. I'll try to hold it up real quick. Let me see here. It's not going to focus on it. It'll focus on me. I don't know, brother. I can try to peel one of these off and see if I can look at it. You know what? All right, so what I'm doing is I'm peeling. All right. This looks like it's... Man, I'll say this. Whatever it's printed with, and this is the Supacolor transfer, whatever it's printed with, it's printed at a really high DPI. So I'm looking at the rosette pattern. Normally my eyes are good enough that like I can see. There's no way this is going to pick it up. Yeah, no way. There's just not resolution there. Normally I can see the rosette pattern at 600 by 600 DPI. I can't see the rosette pattern very clearly, so I'm going to say that it's probably a 1200 by 1200 print or better. But that's a very tight pattern of CMYK, so it's hard for me to tell. It's definitely not DTG, because they've printed to this substrate here, and then they've thrown a white layer down on top of it. I couldn't tell you. I know that there's a specific type of printer that does that, where there's no setup needed, but I don't know enough about the technology to even comment. Yes. So, anyways, a new entrepreneur who's trying to get set up, who's trying to get started, or even an existing entrepreneur that's trying to redefine their business and find success in a down economy, or while everybody else is panicking, the fact remains that there is opportunity out there. People do find success all the time in a down economy or in difficult situations. The key is the vast majority of people are going to fail anyways. In a good economy, in a bad economy, but in a good economy, or when there's high demand, you can sometimes delay the worst effects of well, I lost my train of thought because somebody was responding to Discord. You can sometimes delay the inevitable. You can sometimes delay a business failing because you're propped up artificially by all the demand. And then whenever the economy turns, or whenever the supply finally meets the demand and competition gets a little fiercer, then the business folds up because some other aspect of the business wasn't working right. Something else wasn't functional. And I say that to say that it happens on every level. This company was hitting, mid-millions. They were aiming for 10 million. And when I sat down to meet with them, we discussed their business, and it came out that they wanted to be generalists. So their competition is a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 100 company, and there happen to be a lot of copycat companies. So there are thousands of people that do what this company does, but it's an emerging market. There's a lot of demand for what they do, and to the point where everybody can just be a general service provider. They can be, just random company X that offers 500 services, and they're going to generate a lot of money because it doesn't take that many man hours to generate $50,000, $100,000 projects. And they capitalized on that, and they charged less than their competition, and they offered more for the same, more for the money, less than their competition for the equivalent amount of work. And that's how they blew up. They hit that initial revenue goal, got their first round of funding, built out their infrastructure, hit the second round of funding. And that's when I came in. I've been talking to them for a couple of months on how they wanted to get their brand image and their brand strategy developed. And it was very cursory. We started with a logo consultation because they reached out. Everything they had done was bootstrapped. It was all just kind of seat of their pants. And somebody in the company wanted to see if I wanted to take a stab at their logo. When they said that, I took a look more closely at their company, and I realized that they didn't just need a logo. They needed a lot more than that. It was a logo, a brand, a corporate image, the public face of the company, the colors, the layouts, the scheme that they wanted for the website, but also the behind the scenes strategy. They didn't know who they were. They didn't know why they were doing what they were doing. They were just offering a bunch of services. And when they got all their money, they thought, well, we got to X million doing what we're doing this way. Let's just take our 20-page website and turn it into a 1,500-page website. Let's take our 30 products and turn it into 150 products. Let's take our sales staff and double it. And they were going on a line and trying to just add. They went from 5 C-suite members, a CFO, a CTO, a CR, and then they added a CRO, and then they added a director of marketing. They're just bloating at the top. And when I sat down with the chief executive officer, the chief revenue officer, the director of marketing, and their lead programmer, and myself, I was asking questions like, what do you guys? Who are you? And they answered, who they are. What do you do? And what they did was very complicated, and they explained it to me. We offer this service, and we do this. And they're using a lot of terms that are very very industry specific, to the point where the executives of the company might know cursorily what they're doing, but the people who are their buyers might not necessarily be as tech savvy, or they might be dealing with technicians. So they had two different types of buyers. They had technical buyers, and then they had executive buyers who are buying for a different department in their company. And their goal was to just scale up their operation, more money, more infrastructure, more sales, no problem. It was an old school way of doing things. And because there had been so much demand in their industry, they hadn't had to compete. They hadn't had to differentiate themselves. So when we dug in, but right before my meeting, the director of marketing that they had hired a week and a half before our meeting, I mean, he came in 3 months late to the conversation. He jumps in, he's like, hey, I know we've got a logo meeting scheduled on Google Docs. If you have any submissions that you would like to put in, send them my way, and I'll make sure that they get thrown in the mix. We're voting on a logo tomorrow. And I responded back to him. This is before the meeting. I said, look, Mr. Director of Marketing, that's the reason we build it as a logo meeting was before we really dove into the idea of brand strategy and logo development. I strongly urge you not to lead the meeting with an established logo. What I'm going to share in the first 10 minutes of my meeting is that, the logo is the last part of the brand image puzzle. Once you've got your brand strategy down, once you've got your corporate image down, all of that gets tied together in a nice bow and packaged up in the form of a logo. I strongly urge you not just to reach out to one of your professional contacts and get this logo done. I appreciate, it was a half sentence response. It was very flippant. And I said, okay, I tried, So we go to the meeting, there's the 5 of us, they're answering all of these questions, we're digging into the meat and bones of their business, and their idea was to go wide. And when we dug into it, we found out that the majority of their existing business was coming from a very narrow set of their services and products, and we'll call those PopCert. That subset of their business, we'll call it PopCert, was driving the vast majority of their business. And they had a unique opportunity because their lead source was feeding them a good amount of business. They had a unique lead source. The people who were coming to them were from a very specific size of business that was too small to be hit on by these Fortune 100 companies. They're in the mid-market, the $25 to $500 million business. And I know to a lot of us that sounds humongous, but this is their target market. They're not capturing all of that. This is a company that's aiming to be a $10 million company. But in their field, $25 to $500 million is too small to be noticed by the big fish, but too big to be serviced by the small company in their industry. So they wanted to hit that sweet spot in the middle, and they'd found success. The majority of their business was coming from that. So my thought was, and I'm just listening, why don't you address the existing problem that this group of customers has? And they had the same issue. They were too small for the big companies, too big for the small companies. They needed somebody that would jump in with them when they only needed $10 to $50,000 a year in business to help them prepare for a several $100,000 certification down the road. So there was a lot of groundwork that had to be laid that could take 3 or 4 years to come to fruition. And this company was addressing it right at the end. They were jumping in right at the end, capturing the big sales, but there was a ton of work. We're talking 8-10 months worth of work, but these people need it done now, and there's so much money beyond what they were paying for. There was a lot of infrastructure in these companies that had to be laid to make that work. So they were stepping back, and their idea was to go wide. Let's shotgun them with all these services, let's capture everybody, and then let's cross-sell them after the fact. And my suggestion was, why don't you create a single product, a product that puts a bow on all of what they're doing, And you take you take the clients that you're targeting, and you say, this is the program that we offer. It's a subscription-based program. We take you here at the very beginning. We scale with you no matter what step of the process you're at, and then we bring you to the very end where you qualify for PopCert, and we can run you through that process. And at that point, they can position themselves as experts in this one niche. They're able to become experts in that one little category. And even though they'll never be Coke or Pepsi as a general service provider, there's only ever a number one and a number two. They had no path to get to a mega billion-dollar corporation. That's just, they were never going to get there, But they could own that one niche, and they could start locally, and they could grow that nationwide and become the company that captures, I don't know, $40-50 million worth of this specific type of service, and then Once people are in their ecosystem and they trust their brand and they believe in what they're doing, then you cross sell them into all of the other services and options and opportunities that you can have, and they'll pay up to 40% more. When people are buying from a brand, they pay up to 40% over premium. If you're buying from a commodity grade company, you got Coke and Pepsi that can charge a premium, but RC Cola, Sam's Choice Cola, Thunder Cola, all these different colas that come from the supermarkets, you're going to pay as little as you can because it's a cost-cutting game at the bottom. And that's where they were sitting. They couldn't see that. And there was a cascade of issues that happened after our meeting. The logo that they commissioned was actually a logo off of Fiverr. No joke. I spent 15 minutes talking to them about risk aversion and making sure that you're not commissioning a logo that in 6 months, 12 months, 3 years is going, or immediately is going to come out as being dangerous or detrimental to your brand. What would happen if you commission a logo, you put all this money out to get it on everything in the marketing materials and the website, and then you find out that it's trademarked by somebody else, or you find out that it's a dirty object that nobody really noticed in pre-production. You could waste $100,000. In their case, they had over $1 million website, product line, branding, well, not branding, it was marketing overhaul in their plan that had no direction. And their $100,000 a year director of marketing picks a logo off of Fiverr. It was like he cut his nose off to spite his face. And I kid you not, the logo that this dude commissioned off of Fiverr was almost an exact copy of a logo out of a video game. And I can't mention the video game, but it was a fictitious video game company logo. And the dude slapped it on this soon-to-be $10 million company in an industry where it would have been very quickly recognized by the vast majority of people. In fact, the CFO, the financial officer who was not involved in that, came back livid, pointing out the similarity between the two logos, the only difference being the name of the company at the bottom. It was a nightmare. Not 48 hours after our meeting, where I'm talking about risk aversion by researching logos in the marketplace and looks and identities to make sure that you don't have a logo that's going to infringe on somebody else's intellectual property, or that's going to get you live. I mean, it was like I mentioned it and then it came to fruition within 48 hours. And apparently they had locked in that logo the day before that I got there, but it wasn't until 2 days later that the CFO got to see it. So just a nightmare scenario. And since our meeting, which did not turn into a brand strategy overhaul, their sales are down because the sales staff, who is not technically savvy, they're not technicians that deal with the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts. The salesmen have no idea how to articulate or address the needs of the customers when it comes to selling 500 products or 250 products, whatever they landed on. So what they found before, even at 20 products, is the salesmen who are good salesmen who aren't good technicians were selling people on a certain product, but they were missing out on the greater need for a much larger sale. And it wasn't until conversations had 6, 8, 10 months later that one of the account operators cross-sells them on something else. And by that point, they've missed out on a lot of potential work in the meantime. And now they're doubling down and going super wide on it. And they could be, I already know their sales are down in the wake of our meeting, and a lot of poor decisions are being made. And to me, that is very, very similar to the path that a lot of entrepreneurs go down. Whether you're investing nothing, you're starting from scratch, you're jumping in head first. If you are an entrepreneur or a one-entrepreneur and you're jumping into a situation where you don't have a ton of experience, and you don't have a really strong reason why, something that sets you apart from the competition, that is going to compel buyers to do business with you as opposed to somebody else. Your brand is what other people say about you. John Deere makes tractors that have been trusted by generations of farmers. It's very easy to say that's what John Deere is. And it's not just their logo, it's the whole idea behind their company. And as a small business, you can still be a charismatic brand. You can have a compelling reason why people should do business with you. Burns, like we saw him, he and his wife are veterans. They jointly own their printing company. She happens to be disabled. They're able to use that along with their very compelling personal story to create a personal brand. People know who they are. They're very well respected. And because of that, they want to do business with them. They thank them for their service, and they want to do business with good, honest people like that. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. Now, you might not have a compelling personal story, but you might have a fantastic idea how to address an existing need in the marketplace. Now, if you think that you're going to go create a compelling print-on-demand website, you better look at Spreadshirt and Custom Ink and all these other websites that are doing print-on-demand. If you are coming in to the print-on-demand market, and I know I'm switching back to our industry. If you're coming into the print-on-demand market and you think you're going to make an impact, man, you better have something unique to bring to the table, whether it's really awesome art, whether it's a higher level of service. I mean, and those things it's hard to say, oh, I've got a higher level of service. You need to really bring something more unique to the table. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, I've said it a couple times so far, we launched the Brands and Empires Buyers Club or Builders Club. It's a Patreon members only club. So our supporters that are at the $10 and $20 level get access to supplies cheaper than any of the other distributors. I was ticked at the advantage that's being taken of printers in our industry. For years, I've been really ticked at the way dealers treat buyers. There's just no respect for people who are on the ground producing shirts and putting sweat equity in. So, you know what? I finally said, forget it. We have the YouTube channel, and we're printers, so I really don't care if I make any money. I will do this junk at cost and fire this crap out. And you know what? If these people lose business and market share, so what? At least our group, the people in the Brands and Empires group, are going to get access to inexpensive materials and supplies, and the membership offsets the cost of being able to do that. And I was shocked. I just announced it on the Discord, and we hit $270 a month on Patreon memberships in the first weekend. And people jumped in, and they've already put sales through. I'm shocked at how fast we found traction, and I'm just now mentioning it on YouTube. So I think there's a lot of potential to differentiate yourself. This happens to be how I'm working on differentiating us, is an advocate of the people who are like me, who need to increase their profit margins, who need a chance to get ahead, and who need somebody who's on their side and who's just not going to get them stuck into a stinking lease deal that's going to ruin their lives. If you have access to a good product at a good price and you can really enhance your business, that's what I want to be able to bring to the table, is expertise from the perspective of somebody who's had to live through all aspects of good and bad financial deals. And I don't care. I'm not going to do pay-per-click advertising. If you guys find out about this, you find out about it, and we go from there. But that is the stories I wanted to share. That is the direction of the channel. I wanted to talk to you guys about finding success, in a tough time like this. I think there's a lot more success to be found, and I do believe that it's going to get tougher before it gets better. I think the next 3 or 4 months, it's going to be a contraction phase. So I don't necessarily think that the next 3 months is a good time to get started if you're not already an existing business owner. If you are, then we need to have another conversation about how you can generate sales in an environment where the supply is outpacing the demand for apparel and your brand and all of this other stuff. Our YouTube views are very down. I went from 4,000 to 300, you know what I mean? Just like that, because of all of the attention that's going to other things. And that's fine, that's okay, because I think right now people need to seek entertainment. They're not necessarily looking for a second income when their primary income and the very bottom of their hierarchy of needs is not met. So we just need to get through the worst of this together, but we need to keep our eyes open now, starting now, while other people are panicking. Keep your eyes open now for an opportunity, for inspiration, for an idea that you really believe in. Because if you see an opportunity and you can jump on it, you need to jump on it before it becomes an opportunity that everybody sees. Because if by the time everybody sees it, it's too late. So that's all I wanted to share, guys. I know I've been long-winded today. We had a chance to speak to somebody else from the Discord server. There's a lot more that I could talk about, but we'll get into that later on. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's 11:36 my time. It's pretty late, and I'm just getting over being pretty sick. So I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.